Hello and welcome to this today's session. Today, Biniyam will present his own project in as form of a KAIST individual study endeavor. So it's my pleasure to pass on the microphone and the focus to Biniyam. So here we go. And now, Biniyam, you have the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for the introduction. Hello, I am Biniyam, and today I'll give a brief introduction to what I was doing for the initial study period here with Professor Ziegler. So yes, my project was on understanding the computational complexities of key machine learning algorithms, and throughout this project, what I was doing was reading papers on different machine learning algorithms such as CNNs, RNNs, and transformers, and understanding their computational complexity and analyzing recent works that try to improve the efficiency of these algorithms. And in today's presentation, I'll give an overview of how these traditional algorithms work and how their complexities are computed and like the basic mechanisms. Yes, so there's the contents list. And yeah, so introduction. So as you all might know, recently machine learning has revolutionized the capability of computers. So by using this large amount of data available, significant advancements have been made in natural language processing, computer vision, time series analysis, and forecasting, and so on. So while these models have achieved impressive performance, they also demand substantial processing power and time. So as researchers push to develop the most powerful models, there's also another work in the other direction, which is creating more efficient models to mitigate the computational challenges. So here in the image, GFLOPS means giga floating point operations per second, and the size of each circle in this image shows the GFLOPS required for a single forward pass of the model. So as you see, like recently, larger models have been built with more parameters and more computations are being required. So yeah, the computational demand of a model is affected by a lot of parameters or a lot of affecting things, including the model architecture, the depths and widths, and the number of layers, and so on. And also the type of the layers, which means like the nature of the architecture, for example, whether it's a convolutional or recurrent or attention mechanism, and so on. And also the total number of parameters is a huge effect here. And also the number of operations, as I mentioned earlier. So in this presentation, we will solely focus on the architecture. Basically, we will see the most prominent deep learning architectures, examine the computational complexity, and see the efforts that are being made here. So as an introduction, we need this background. So it's fairly simple. So the matrix multiplication between two matrices of size A by B and B by C can be computed as A by B by C, as you see in the slide. And yes, this is a very small pseudocode I made for it. So yeah, I hope it's straightforward. Then we start with convolutional neural networks. So CNNs these are neural network architectures specifically designed for or specialized for grid-like structured data, such as images, for example. And CNNs are highly efficient because of their ability to share parameters. And this significantly reduces the number of parameters compared to fully connected neural networks. And these CNNs use sliding filter approach, so parameters are shared. And this is the main reason for this computational efficiency. And the efficiency coupled with their ability to learn hierarchical features from simple edges to complex patterns make the CNNs exceptionally powerful for image-related tasks. So yeah, CNNs operate by sliding filter, as I mentioned. Also, this filter is also known as kernel, and it slided across the input data. And this process allows the network to scan different regions of the input, capturing local features such as edges, textures, and patterns. So in each layer of the network, multiple filters are applied iteratively. enabling the extraction of increasingly complex features. And as the data progresses through several layers, these filters help the neural network build a hierarchical understanding of the input, from the simple shapes to more complicated and intricate patterns and structures. So the time complexity of convolutional neural networks, or CNNs, primarily depends on the size of the input image and the filter or the kernel applied in the convolutional layers. So assuming the input image has dimensions n by n, the output shape is going to be n minus f plus 1. And this can be proved fairly in a straightforward manner. And the output image is going to be of size n minus f by n minus f or plus 1. You should consider that too. And for each point computed, we have this f by f size filter or kernel sliding across the image. So for each output pixel, there's going to be f square computation. And since we have n minus f by n minus f, and the larger term is going to be n squared, the time complexity can be stated as O of n squared by f squared. And from this simple pseudocode, you can also find the space complexity in computing. So next we move to the other very revolutionary deep learning architectures, which are recurrent neural networks. And RNNs are a class of neural networks designed to process sequential data by maintaining a memory of previous inputs. They save a hidden state, and when computing the next time state, they use information from the past. So RNNs have been widely used in natural language processing tasks and also like forecasting and signal analysis tasks. So yeah, the key feature here is, unlike traditional neural networks, RNNs have connections that form directed cycles, allowing information to persist across multiple time steps. And they are mainly used for sequential data processing, and RNNs input data one step at a time, with each step's output depending on both current input and the information from previous steps. And the hidden state at each time step, RNNs maintain a hidden state which captures the memory of the past, and it influences the network's output at the current time step. Yes, so this is the instruction. So yeah, the pseudocode. So the time complexity of RNNs is influenced by several factors, including the number of time steps, the dimension of the input state, which is dh here, the input dimension dx, and the output dimension dy for each time steps. And the RNN performs operations to update the hidden state and compute the output. Specifically, the time complexity for a given time step, or like at one instant, can be computed as of dh times dh plus dx plus dy. And this is because of the matrix multiplications we showed earlier. So here, for every input, every input x, which is going to be one-dimensional embedding of a word, we have dx, and we want to convert it to dh, and we use wxh, a matrix for that. And if we align the matrix multiplications, it's going to be reduced to this form. So this complexity reflects the computational demands of both maintaining and updating the hidden states of generating the outputs at each time step. And yeah, this is next we will try to follow a natural transition to a transformer architecture. So first we have to see the attention mechanism, and let me explain the motivation for this. So many of machine learning models rely on encoder and decoder architectures, and the encoder maps input information into more informative representation or latent space, and the decoder converts the representation to the desired output, right? And yes, so we have an encoder. For example, we can think of it as a person expressing his idea using drawing, and the second person understands it. So like information is passed in with this very efficient form. That's the drawing. And in the same way, a neural network encoder will take an input X and embed it into a hidden space. In that hidden space, representation is used by the decoder to retrieve some important label classification. So yes, what does attention mean? It's to attend to a specific part of the input depending on the learned representation. So the attention score represents the significance of one input to the other. And this can be computed using similarity functions such as dot product and so on. And the pseudocode can be simplified as the following. So basically, we have the query and the key matrices, and we compute the cross product between the query and key of each input. Then we get the attention weights using the softmax scores, and basically this value, which is between 0 and 1 and sum to 1, represents how much each value attends to the other values. And this is like a very straightforward matrix multiplication. So we use the previous formula. So we have two multiplications here, between the cube and the key, and again the weights and the value. So yeah, those two are shown here in the time complexity representation. So this leads us to transformers. So what are transformers? Well, transformers rely only on attention mechanism. So they use multiple attention heads for computing representation, and I will discuss this further. So the attention mechanism greatly improves the model performance by allowing it to focus on the significant parts. And this would allow us to give large size input because we will only attend to the necessary parts, and therefore it's efficient. So yes, this targeted focus leads to significant advancements over existing models. And so what the next step is that can we only use attentions? Or yeah, can we only use attention mechanism? And the transformer is exactly that. The transformer is an architecture that entirely relies on the attention mechanism to draw global dependencies between the input and the output. So yes, we have the encoder and we have the decoder segments. And yes, the attention mechanism, which we have discussed earlier, is implemented by first defining this scale dose product attention, or basically the multiplication between the query and the key matrices, and then the value matrix after weighting them by the softmax operator. And yes, what is special about transformers is we use a multi-head attention and the intuition behind is each attention layer could retrieve some feature or some aspect of the relation between the input and the weighted matrices. So after that, multi-head attention is defined for parallel learning of different versions of the attention layer. And this pseudocode for transformers is basically an extension of the pseudocode for the transformers is extension of the pseudocode for attention layers or self-attention. And yes, we just have to scale the earlier complexity by the number of attention layers. And this is usually a constant number, so we still get the same amount of complexity with the self-attention or attention layer. So yes, since the multi-head attention can be parallelized, we focus merely on the complexity of a single head attention, and we got this from earlier in our computation. And the complexity of a single attention computation depends on the matrix multiplication between the query key and the value. And yes, so transformers, there's an issue with like a well-known issue with transformers, that is that they do not scale linearly, or they scale quadratically, and this self-attention is complex, so it's hard to scale them to large-sized inputs. For example, this can be seen in the issue of large language models failing to attend or having difficulty to attend to large corpus of text given at a single time. So to mitigate this issue, several approaches have been proposed to improve the runtime complexity of transformers, which are called X-formers. And yes, in this transformer paper by Vaswani, the first transformer paper, they also proposed these complexities, and this is the algorithmic complexity of different architectures for 1D inputs actually. So yes, this you can see some differences here between the convolution complexity that we discussed in the one present here. Yes, and this has been my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this presentation for the individual study. And if it's okay, maybe we can now switch to a little bit of discussion.
Yes.
So this is not prepared, so this is just off the record. So one question that came to my mind is about parallelizing, right? So you already mentioned the potential for parallelizing by having each attention head taken care of independently of the others, and thus having several attention areas processed concurrently. So my question is, on top of that, also matrix multiplication can be parallelized, right? So every entry of the result matrix can be calculated independently of another entry, right? So we have a row times column for the first entry, and maybe a different row times a different column for another entry. So each row times column can be computed simultaneously if we have enough parallel devices. And have you maybe thought about, or can you ad hoc think about how to further acceleration is possible if we and additionally use this kind of parallelism?
Uh, yes, Professor. So like as you say, like matrix multiplication itself can be parallelized, and actually that there are a lot of works. For example, this machine learning libraries or these modules usually have this parallelism like pre-coded inside them. So like many of the matrix multiplications are already done. Like I think at the GPU level, they're heavily parallelized for efficiency and speed. That as that.
Yes, that is true. I understand. Thank you. Thank you very much. So then let's end this presentation here.